Most of the most successful people in the world have had, pretty substantial failures, and the reason they're successful is because they don't stop there. And I think that's the way to look at approaching failure and those limiting beliefs is like, okay, they're here. I recognize that, and I'm just going to kind of keep on going.
Hey there, I am Dr. Jason Balara, and this is the Know Your Why podcast, where we explore the why behind success. Every week, I meet with real estate investors, veterinary entrepreneurs, mindset coaches, authors, and fitness professionals to uncover their why and how it drives them on the winding road to success. What is your why?
Hey there, I'm Jason Balara, and this is the Know Your Why podcast. I decided to do a little bit of a solo episode. I wanted to talk about basically some lessons I've learned through entrepreneurship. So there's going to be five broad topics, but so 5 lessons learned in entrepreneurship. There's your title. But basically, they're sort of encompassing. Some of them are larger than just one. There's probably about 1 million lessons we can all learn in entrepreneurship. But I try to break them down into 5 broad categories. And the first one is, these are not necessarily in order of importance, but the first one is just the power of partnerships and team. I think that is oftentimes an overlooked piece of entrepreneurship. I think we need to really be focused on the team around us, and that can mean so many different things. It can mean the partners that we join with to do deals. It can mean the people that we hire. It can be our family. Those personal team members are so important. But I think one of the things that is basically often overlooked is, just doing a deal at the cost of establishing, true effective partnerships. And some people may be a good partner for one person and not for another. It's just about finding complementary skill sets and kind of putting those together, making sure you have a shared vision, and ultimately probably putting that on paper, like legal paper, talking to a lawyer, having a really good operating agreement, kind of understanding what you're getting into and what happens if things don't go well. We all hope that everything's going to go perfect and rosy, but ultimately at the end of the day, not unlike marriage, unfortunately, there will be problems and there will be potential divorces, if you will. So it's just something to talk about in advance. It will really clear up a whole lot of problems. So that again goes partnerships, team members. If we apply this to an employee, we're talking about, here's your expectation, here's your job description. All of that stuff spelled out in advance is going to save a whole lot of trouble down the road. So there's, sort of number one lesson in entrepreneurship is, the power of partners and team. I feel very, very fortunate to have great team around me, both in my work and personal life. So I've been pretty lucky there, and I hope to continue to form more powerful and fulfilling partnerships throughout. The next thing I would talk about is as a entrepreneurship lesson number 2 is reserves. Whether you're buying real estate, you're buying a business, running your own household, having a bit in the tank can really come in handy. And I think there's a couple of reasons, and probably the biggest is, at least from my perspective, is avoidance of stress, right? So I actually heard Ken McElroy do a talk at one point, and he said the first thing you should strive for in your business, and owning real estate is a business in and of itself, so you can really apply this to anything. But he said the first thing you should strive for is financial freedom within your business if you're a business owner. So a lot of us talk about, financial freedom and what investing can do for us and how to create financial freedom. But I had never heard anyone use that phrase referring to their business. So basically, it comes in a lot of different sayings, but he's essentially talking about the cash flow within the business. So if you are purchasing real estate, if you are purchasing a business, making sure that you have reserves in some form, whether that's a working capital line of credit, whether that's some cash in the bank, whether that's some investors on standby in case of emergency. There's a lot of ways to access money. It's not this is not coming from a place of scarcity mindset. There's a lot of ways to access money. My suggestion to you is you'll save yourself a lot of headache if you've identified those things in advance of needing them. And hopefully you never will. But if they're there, they're there, and it'll save you a lot of trouble. Now, having a good reserves account or having these, access to funds should not mean that you don't pay attention to the business plan, don't make good, spending habits. And again, this comes from you can use this in your home budget as well if we're not talking about a business or real estate. But basically, it doesn't remove you from having to follow the other fundamentals of running your business well. It just allows you a little bit of a cushion in case of a hiccup, and really can save a lot of headache and sleepless nights if you've got that reserves piece in the tank. So that's number two. Number three, and this maybe goes a little bit together. Number three, I would say is management of expectations. And so the third lesson of entrepreneurship that I want to put out there is management of expectations. And this can apply to a lot of things, but specifically to time and money. Everything, almost everything, is likely going to cost you more than you think. Excuse me. It's likely going to cost you more than you think and take more time than you think. And this is probably especially relevant to kind of the early stages. Like over time, you should be able to identify where revenue is coming from and where your expenses are, and actually be working to increase revenue and decrease expenses. So this will get better. You'll be able to manage expectations better, but going into any deal, real estate or business, I think it's pretty important to think about that in realistic terms. So my wife, and probably anybody who's ever seen me do any project, knows that I like to say, this is going to take me 2 weeks to do some home improvement project. That's going to take me 2 weeks to do. Well, 2 months later, it's not done. And that's the norm. And sometimes that's because of me, but sometimes that's just because you're going to run into headaches. I'll give you a very real life relevant example to myself just right now. So I, as many of you know, I've been in construction for over 30 years. Hasn't always been my main focus or full-time job, but it's always been there at varying degrees, kind of intermingled with my veterinary career. So back in realistically the summer, I started. So this is I'm recording this January 30th of 2025. So summer of 2024, I started to really consider that acquiring construction businesses made a whole lot of sense to add to the portfolio. And in California, in order to acquire a construction business, you have to have a contractor's license. And so I started looking into the requirements for that. I wasn't sure if I was qualified or not. I thought I should be, but who knows? At the time, I didn't even know what the California Licensing Board requirements were. Turns out, basically, you need to have 4 years of experience out of the last 10. There's a lot of caveats to that, but ultimately, in an effort to keep this incredibly long story short, I found that I met and exceeded the requirements as they were indicated. So I went ahead and I submitted my application. Approximately 5 or 6 months later, after submitting the application, I finally got notification that I was then qualified to sit for the exam, that I had been approved. My application had been approved to sit for the exam. So it takes California State Licensing Board, you have to mail your application in, like put it in an envelope with a stamp and mail it in. It's not done digitally. So you mail it in, it goes there. It takes approximately 6 weeks for them to, I guess, put your application in the queue for review. Thankfully, after that, everything was done via email. And so, I don't know. I probably have 30 or 40 emails back and forth, with them questioning one thing, asking me to resubmit a piece of paper, to fill it out a little bit different. It's kind of a if you're not trying to get this done, it's a little bit of a funny story. But ultimately, like I said, it took a long time. Took a long time to get to the point of being able to schedule the exam. And so then I got that. I was all excited. I went ahead onto the scheduling, the test site scheduling website, and it was another 6 weeks before I could schedule the exam. So the point being, when I looked at the website and it said you could, send your paperwork in, it says it takes about 6 weeks to get through the queue. I thought, okay, so maximum it's going to take me 2 months by the time I'm licensed. And I thought I was being generous there. And so here we are, already, nearly 6 months into the process, and probably another 2 more months until it's done. So that is one of the biggest lessons of entrepreneurship. This is virtually all the time. Nobody's on the same timetable as you are. So when you're trying to get things done, often it relies on someone else, and there's a lot of messaging and sentiment in the business world and entrepreneur world is that people who move fast have success, and I believe that. I think you need to be decisive, and you need to sort of get after it and get things done, but recognize that sometimes it will not be in your control, and that's just something they have to kind of learn how to get frustrated by and move on from. So it's definitely about managing expectations within myself, or if I've told someone else I'm going to have something completed, like I said, I expected to have my license a long time ago. So also, money's the same way. Everything's likely going to cost more than you sort of anticipate at the beginning. Again, over time, you dial those things in and you get a little bit better, and you install systems and processes. And I think this managing expectations also applies to people raising capital and working with investors. And it's, I think, thankfully, gone are the days of people putting out pitch decks that just overpromise and underdeliver. I think a lot of us now have recognized that it's much better to underpromise and overdeliver. But I think ultimately, what's best is communication. You need to stay in constant communication with your investors, with your team, with whoever matters to the process, and just keep that open line of communication, being honest and transparent, and that goes a long way with good, bad, and ugly. It helps a lot to kind of keep people informed. The fourth lesson of entrepreneurship that I came up with is about prioritization. I don't think that there is true balance, and people talk a lot about work-life balance, and I think maybe the image that gets conjured up in those scenarios is I spend 4 hours a day, with family, and 4 hours a day on this work project, and 4 hours, like that it's evenly broken up day to day. But I think ultimately there are times in life where we have to prioritize, whether that's family or work or whatever it is. But I think that although I don't believe that there is balance, I do believe that there are certain priorities that should never be neglected, and those are time, family, and health. Those are my priorities, and they're all intertwined. Of course, I think that time with family, that time to keep yourself healthy, that sort of thing, it all goes together. But if you keep those pieces of the puzzle front of mind, I think it allows the money in the business and all the other stuff that kind of goes along with it, that maybe we think as the traditional version of success. I think prioritizing time, money, and health actually allows you to be successful in those other spaces. So um, that doesn't mean the same thing for everybody. I mean, I feel like health is pretty, or sorry, time, family, and health. Yeah, I think health is pretty self-explanatory, right? We want to eat right, exercise, that kind of thing, get enough rest. But that means something different to everybody's, so understanding what it means for you, for your own health, that's important. Family, those are the people that, for me, that's my why, that's my main driver. So they are both my inspiration and my motivation, and also uh, probably sometimes the thing that maybe holds me back a little bit, um, whether that's from a fear of taking risks, or even just recognizing that I'm prioritizing some of my time to them. Maybe I could move a little bit faster, but I'm not willing to neglect family just to get to some sort of arbitrary business or financial goal. What, I don't know, a year or two faster. I just don't think, like, the kids will be, by the time they're 16 or 18, they won't care what I'm doing. And so I want to take this time when they want me around to be around. And so again, these the point of this lesson on priorities is that you have to know what yours are. So mine, time, family, and health, someone else might have something different. Maybe you don't have kids, and you can put money or business on that list, or maybe you have a health problem that you've got to take care of, and that becomes number one. And that's the thing, is like, you can have all the money in the world, but if you don't have your health, then it's sort of useless. So I think time, family, and health as priorities drives the rest. That's my feeling on it. And then finally, the fifth, and maybe this encompasses them all, but the fifth lesson I've learned through entrepreneurship is mindset. Is maybe the most important thing that you will have to adjust, maintain, and sort of cultivate on your journey. So, and there's lots of pieces to that. I wrote a few of them down, but essentially, um, certainly a lot of times the people's first hurdle on the mindset side of things is limiting beliefs. And so you probably won't make them go away. We probably will always have limiting beliefs. You'll probably always have some sort of feelings of imposter syndrome. Um, but that also probably means that you're trying to do big things, bigger things than you've ever done before. And so you feel like maybe you're not qualified to that, but ultimately, um, recognizing, okay, that's fine. I feel those things, but you know what? I'm going to do it anyway, because um, your mindset around risk and thinking bigger, those things can really, really hold you back. I listened to a podcast actually this morning, a lot about that, about the mindset behind risk, and essentially the concept was that your ego is holding you back from being successful, and the reason for that is basically we don't. A lot of times we care more about what people think if we fail than the actual failure itself. So, um, one of the things that I've maybe adjusted, and I come from the surgery world. I don't think failure is acceptable when I'm doing surgery. So that's been a hard one for me to come to grips with. But um, failure in the sense of, oh, I, had a deal go bad, or failure in the sense of I lost some money, or, whatever that might be, those things are not life and death, right? It's so changing your perspective on uh, what failure is. Most of the most successful people in the world have had, pretty substantial failures, and the reason they're successful is because they don't stop there. And I think that's the way to look at approaching failure and those limiting beliefs, is like, okay, they're here. I recognize that, and I'm just going to kind of keep on going. And I think the other part of that podcast I listened to is he talked about the concept that there is no risk, in the sense that there's risk in you know skydiving. There's risk in uh, being a professional fighter. There's risk involved in physical risks, but the risk of just having a business not work out, or losing money or things like that, that there's always a backup plan. And just knowing that the way he stated it was, basically like, if you are in position to be starting a business, buying real estate, doing something big in the entrepreneurial space, you very, very likely have some qualifications that would allow you to pretty quickly go back to the workforce if you needed to. And I think that's true. I haven't stopped doing surgery, but I have a pretty good backup plan. I can go back and be a full-time surgeon, and it's kind of cool. That's not I'm not going to be sad about that. I think people would still consider that a successful career, as do I just want more, and so it's just, I want to do surgery, but I want other things. um, the other part of mindset, I think, is I would kind of lump this in there, but adaptability. So the ability to listen, learn, and adapt, because you are going to have hard times, and it's not always going to go perfect, and there's sort of things that go along with that. But I think if you can take every experience, good or bad, and sort of almost, I was going to say Rolodex. I don't Probably a lot of people don't know what a Rolodex is anymore, but essentially, you can just create data out of each of those experiences. So you're, again, whether good or bad, we probably learn more from the bad, right? Because if something goes well, most of us don't then sit back and say, okay, why did that go well? We're excited. We did something that was successful, but why did it go well? And I think if you do, there's a lot to be learned from it. You also could look at it from the perspective of, could it have gone better, right? So if you want to really learn something out of it, could it have gone better? Could it have gone faster? That sort of thing. It's okay that it didn't, but what could I do the next time that might make it even more successful? Whatever that metric might be. But when things go wrong, that's the real opportunity to figure out what could I have done better here? What could I have? Was it something I didn't plan for? Did I not do enough due diligence? Did I have a just any setback that you might have? Is there something I could have done differently that would have given me a different outcome or a better outcome? And if not, that's fine. Use it, take a piece. I also think you can. That's why I think this is a learn, listen, and adapt. So I think learning, but listening to other people, like learn from other people's mistakes, learn from people that there's an overload of information through social media. Um, Listen to the people you like and don't like, right? Because I think that there are certain personalities and thought leaders and figureheads that I don't agree with them. I don't make like whatever that means. Um, but they may have things that you can learn from them, and whether that is learning to be unlike them, or maybe there are just pieces of them that make sense, but pieces that don't. It doesn't matter. I think we can learn from virtually anyone. So listen, learn, and adapt. That's a big part of mindset. And then I think just focusing on being a good person, which this is like, I guess, mindset with my kids, but the focus on being a good person, um, although it sounds sort of, you know, I don't know, mushy. I think it actually is relevant to business. I think being someone who people want to work with or work for or partner with or cut you some slack when things don't go right because you've been that good person for them. Like, I think that's an extremely valuable and underrated piece of business. Um, there are bad people that are successful that don't treat other people well. It happens. I can't say it doesn't. But it's at least for me, it's going to be a far more sustainable situation to be in, and if you're just someone who's good to people, good to work with. So um, anyway, that's it. I wanted to kind of put these out there. These are I've learned so many lessons through entrepreneurship and continue to learn every day. But I think these five sort of overarching themes have been super, super valuable to me to sort of recognize and try to refine and then implement how I think about them. So again, it's number one is partnerships and your team. Number two is having reserves. You could probably even input not just money reserves, but energy reserves, time reserves, right? So don't push yourself. This ties into health, but don't push yourself to the brink all the time. Third would be managing expectations, whether that's within yourself or for if you have investors, employees, that kind of thing. Anyone around you, and you can do that most of the time. This we're talking about managing expectations around money or time, but you can manage expectations by being open and transparent and honest and just communicating well. The fourth is prioritization. Again, and for me, the three main priorities, everything's kind of built around prioritizing time, health, and family. And again, not necessarily in that order. It's just kind of they all are one as far as I'm concerned. And then finally, the lesson around mindset. I spoke on some of that, and the listen, learn, adapt concept. I really think can help you go a long way. I think just being open to looking at the world through the lens of what if the best happened and not what if the worst happened. And you can look at both sides really, but I think just allowing yourself to have that eye on abundance. So anyway, thank you for listening. Thank you for those of you that regularly listen to the show. Please rate, and review. That helps us get more visibility. It helps us get great guests. I definitely appreciate all of you that do listen. So thank you, and have a great day.
Hey there, I am Dr. Jason Balara, and this is the Know Your Why podcast, where we explore the why behind success. Every week, I meet with real estate investors, veterinary entrepreneurs, mindset coaches, authors, and fitness professionals to uncover their why and how it drives them on the winding road to success. What is your why?